Hi and welcome to markgallard.com. Thanks for checking out this video. Today's presentation comes to you from the beautiful Guarujá beach in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So somewhat of an international flavor today. I hope you've now taken the time to view the video adjacent to this one, which looks at the Rafa Nadal post-match interview at the 2009 French Open, where he lost in the fourth round to Robin Soderling. Now, I'd like you to take some time to watch this video and notice 5 key points I'm going to summarize here for you, and then watch the video back again. The 5 points I'd like to address that he does and shows in his interview after the match is acceptance, understanding, acknowledgement, learning, and responsibility. These are the 5 key areas that he goes through during this very short 2.5–3 minute interview after his loss. And I'd like to discuss those areas with you so that you can learn to deal with defeat in a similar way that he does. Now, what I'd like to point out is that he lost this match after having 4 years in a row of winning the French Open, a 31 match win streak, the longest ever at Roland Garros. And his prize money at that tournament was usually a little over $1 million. Well, on this time he picked up almost only $100,000. So a very big drop in prize money, a huge amount of points lost that he didn't defend after winning the title the year before. And he was still able to come into this press conference and present himself in a very, very respectful and well-presented manner. And his points that I'm going to talk to you about now are very important, and something I hope that you can integrate into your game and when you lose matches, because everyone loses matches. And a very good Chinese proverb says that even in a war situation, even those that are victorious have to suffer defeat. And we learn a lot more from the losses than we do from our wins. So I hope that these 5 points help you. The first point that I would like to address is acceptance. This is very important for a tennis player or any athlete to accept their defeat, accept the loss. And Nadal does this in a very good way, and it's important that he accepts that loss with grace. And he says in his interview, if you go back and watch it, that he's not surprised that he lost, and he knows how dangerous Robin Soderling can be. So right away he accepts the responsibility, or accepts the loss for what it is. It's only a tennis match, and he gives credit right away to Robin Soderling, because he says, we know Robin is a great player, and today I wasn't the person to win, but nevertheless I accept my loss. This is a very important first point that we see right away from Nadal in his video. The second point I would like to address from the Rafa Nadal interview is understanding. This is very important, where he understands what factors contributed to the loss on that day and what was the cause for it. You'll notice in the video he says that when one player plays poorly at that level, they have to expect to lose. And he attributed some of his problems that day to leaving a lot of balls short. So right away he's understood the loss, and already within the first 35–40 seconds of the interview we've seen him go through acceptance and now understanding of the loss. 2 very important parts to accepting and dealing with defeat. The third key factor I would like to discuss is, for me, possibly one of the most important, and that's acknowledgement. Acknowledging that your opponent has played better than you on a certain day, and by doing this you relieve some of the burden that you put on yourself with the loss, and it helps you to move on from there, attributing the fact that not only did you maybe not play your best tennis, but also your opponent played well. Nadal says in his interview that he did play not so high a level as he had hoped, but he also congratulated Robin Soderling on his success and the way he played throughout the match. So right away we've seen him be able to go through acceptance, understanding, and acknowledgement of the defeat very fast. It's a very short interview. If you watch it again, 2.5–3 minutes, not very long. If you look at all the great champions, Sampras, Agassi, Nadal, Federer, all these great players, they're very good at doing one thing, and that's accepting responsibility, but also giving credit to the opponent when it's deserved. And this is very important for moving on in your own career. The fourth point I would like to address is learning. This is maybe the most important. I know I've said that about a couple of these points, but this is huge for all tennis players, because as that Chinese proverb says, you will learn a lot more from your losses than from your wins. And I think this is one area that's really underlooked or understudied in tennis, is people don't put enough time into figuring out why they lost. And this can go into as deeper things as how much sleep you got the night before, what did you eat, what were your practice habits and routines, what kind of periodization planning were you doing in order to get to the level that you wanted to be at in this match. But very, very basically, we just want to look at why we lost on that particular day. And if you watch the interview with Nadal, you'll see how he says that he attributes some of the loss to the fact that he left a lot of ball short and he didn't play aggressive enough, especially at the key times. So it's very, very simple here. We're just learning from what we did wrong, and we're hoping that we can take the information we got from the match and put it onto the practice court so that if we're put back in this situation again, we won't make the same mistake. The fifth key point and the final key point that I would like to address is that of responsibility. And this for me is something that I see the top players doing, and when we come down the ranks we see the lower ranked players starting to try and make excuses, to blame other people, to take away the accountability of the loss. Tennis is an individual sport. It is you against them. There's no team, there's no coaching for the most part. So you have to be accountable for your actions, whatever they are. In this interview, we saw Nadal at the end of his interview be asked by one of the reporters that Murray had trouble with the wind and said it was very tricky, and was that one of the reasons that you played short? His answer to that question was, no, it was my fault. The wind was not a factor. It was the same for both players, and I play short because I played short. And this is very important. I think this is one of the most important differences between the top level players, the medium level players, and the lowest ranked players, because the top level players are willing and able to take full responsibility, hold themselves accountable, and then make the necessary changes. And these 5 points that we've now illustrated: acceptance, understanding, acknowledgement, learning, and responsibility. These 5 factors are key. They are crucial factors in dealing with defeat, and if you can integrate these into your post-match losses, if you take a loss, try and go through these points. Take some time, 5-10 minutes after the match, and write down these points on a piece of paper why you feel you were not able to win, the things you learned, acknowledge your opponent, accept the loss. You can then move on, and I guarantee you that the next time you play, you will be a much fresher person and you will be able to move on from that match. It's very important in tennis that you can have a short-term memory. I hope you enjoyed this presentation from the beautiful Guarujá, Brazil today, a slightly different flavor to the usual tennis courts of Florida. Before I go, I would like to remind you that the following year, 2010, Rafa Nadal captured or recaptured his Roland Garros title in very convincing form. I'd also like to ask you, how many tournaments do you play a year? Most professional players are playing between 25 and 30 tournaments a year. Unless you're winning every single one of those tournaments, you're going to take 25 or 30 losses a year. So this is a huge and underlooked part of tennis. You have to know how to deal with defeat, because more than likely you're going to take defeat every single time you play a tournament unless you win it. The top players, Federer, Nadal, they may play 25 tournaments in a year, and if they're winning 6 or 7, they're very, very happy with that. So they're still taking a large amount of losses. If you're just a club player, you may be playing matches on the weekends, 2 or 3 in a day sometime. You have to know how to deal with defeat, especially if you're playing back-to-back matches in a day or in consecutive days. Very important that you can go through these 5 points and help improve your tennis using these 5 key characteristics of dealing with defeat. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and enjoy looking back at this website soon for some more videos about professional tennis and recreational tennis. Thanks very much from Brazil. I'm Mark.